Hello. What's up, guys?
Hello, Gus. How are you, mate?
Good, man. Good to hear you.
Good
How
to
you
hear
doing?
you as well, mate. Mate, I was just lining up my introduction, to be honest with you. and
No,
I
don't
was
worry
having
about that. I'm just trying the mic, so just making a sound test, sound check.
that's cool, mate. Maybe we should do the or maybe that's probably the best sound check.
Hey,
Probably
oh,
the most appropriate.
yeah.
Well, you're sounding great, mate. I've got to be honest. Right,
Awesome.
I'm just gonna go on time chain calendar now, and then I'm ready to go.
All right.
Here we go.
Just so you know, if anything fails or I go offline, just send me the just I'll let you know on the Telegram group or whatever. Because
Okay,
sometimes my Twitter spaces for some reason they break sometimes, but just it's all good now.
that's okay, mate. Um we'll get
I
Hansel
have
up
the
here.
same problem always. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know why. How you doing, Flo?
Hey, how are you doing? I can't hear Rebel. I don't know if he's here or if it's I'm actually having problems right now again.
Can you hear me, Flo? I'm speaking now.
He's here and I can
Okay.
hear him. Okay.
Okay. So I'll just get out and back again. 1 second.
Yeah. That happens to me too sometimes. It's weird because, like, I don't know why Twitter or X don't give support to spaces on other devices different than smartphones. For instance, I could have just switched to my iPad or something like that, but I mean, the only way to get into a space is through your smartphone. So that's that's a little that's a problem.
It is a problem, mate. It is a problem, but we're here, and yeah, we'll just wait for Flo to jump back in, and then we'll kick off for real. But hope everyone's in the room is okay and is having a wonderful week. Give us a wave, everyone, if you can.
Here are our friends,
Here we go.
Citra, Hansel. Hello, guys.
All right, I think we're ready to go. I hope. If Flo, can you hear me now?
Hey guys. Let me see if I can hear you.
Can you hear me, Flo?
Yes, I can hear you.
Woo! All right, let's do this. It's block height 857 506 according to the time chain calendar. Welcome everyone. It is the Art of Freedom, and this is episode 21, a very important number for us Bitcoiners. And we have an awesome guest here to celebrate episode 21, Mr. Gus Grillasca, who we will get to in a very short moment. But the Art of Freedom, I'm pretty sure all of you have listened before, but if you haven't listened before, it's the Bitcoin's, I say premiere, only Bitcoin Art only show at the moment, which is great. We love it. It's a great place to hang out on Monday night, learn about the Bitcoin art revolution, talk to some incredible artists, and listen to their stories as well. As per usual, I'm always joined by the incredible Florencia. How are you doing, Flo?
Hey Rebel. I'm doing very good. I'm feeling super inspired this new creative week, trying to start new projects and always I'm so happy to start the week with our spaces, learning from others, from other artists. It's really super inspiring for me. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm glad you can hear me because it does end up like a seance sometimes, like you're trying to talk to the dead. Rebel, are you in the room? Rebel, I can't hear you. And so that's this is kind of the thing we deal with on this is the joy of live broadcasting. Not only is it full of excitement and danger, it can go wrong, but this is why we're here and why we do it. All right, without further ado, we're going to head on to the main man, the man you want to listen to. Enough of these Welsh tones, enough to these Mexican tones that you all want to hear. It's the one and only Gus Grillasca. How are you, Gus?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm super proud of being with you guys here, and also for being the uh, the one hosting the episode number 21, which is like a super symbolic number. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you very much.
Mate, we're honoured to have you. I've, whenever we talk, be it at conferences or wherever, I always come away with a smile on my face and always so happy to speak to you, mate. And it feels like I've known you for years and years. I think I probably have known you for a year or two, admittedly. It feels like I've known you for longer than that.
Yeah, like a
Um,
couple of years, perhaps.
Yes, yes, mate. So we've got lots to get into, Gus. I mean, we've got. Obviously, we need to talk about Bitcoin R. We need to talk about what you're the Queen tribute band you're forming. We need to talk about many other things there, but let's start at the best place, and the best place is the start. Mr. Gus Grillasca, can you just give us? I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and that 5 minutes only to talk about your kind of your orange pill kind of story and how you got into Bitcoin. Off you go.
Sure. Um, yeah, I mean, even though we've known each other for a relatively short period of time, 2 years maybe. I think Flo maybe a little bit more than a year. But remember, these are Bitcoin years, so it's not the same as like the normie calendar. So years in this industry are definitely longer and more intense. So yeah, I feel like some of you guys I that we've known each other for a relatively short period of time, we've been through a lot. And even though we meet in real life for short periods of time, I mean, there's so many things happening and so many things to talk about. So it just feels like ages. But okay, going to my Bitcoin story. So I first learned about, different from most of the people that I know, I just found about Bitcoin online. I was around 2014 living in Barcelona. I was living there for almost 8 years by then, in different parts of Europe, but mainly in Barcelona. And I had my own company. I'm an engineer, and at that time I had a biotechnology company. We were recycling cellulose. So basically, we were taking paper and different pieces of fabric from the waste of the industry there, and we were doing a biotechnological process to recycle those waste of cellulose into construction panels. And I was working there, and I was having a crisis in my life, that had a lot to do with money and moving be, around the world, because I am Mexican. I was born in Mexico, and I was very happy living in Europe for several years. But I always wanted, in a way, to come back to Mexico, or at least come and go. And I realized that the banking system was not working for me. So it's funny because even though we lived in this globalized world, the vast majority of people don't have the experience of moving a lot, and they don't need to actually make economic transactions on the daily basis between countries. And me being from Mexico, which is not, it's a rich country in some regards, but the economy in Mexico, it's pretty small compared to other first world countries, let's say. And the wages are relatively low, like compared to what you can get in Germany or Switzerland or whatever, mostly being an engineer. And perhaps the number one reason why I was not coming back to my country was because I didn't even consider like looking for a job here. and earning maybe a fifth of the amount that I could get in Europe or in the US. So that was basically it. And then on the other hand, I was also always very interested in philosophy. So I actually went for a short period of time to philosophy school here in Mexico. I was very interested in different areas of philosophy, like political philosophy. And I was pretty aware that anarchism is a valid political philosophy, different from most people that because of propaganda, most people believe that anarchism is some kind of terrorism, something like that. I was like pretty aware from an early age that anarchism was like a valid philosopher, political philosophy, which actually I believe is the most valid one, right? It's a branch of libertarian thinking. And living in Barcelona, also there's like a big tradition of anarchism there, because if you guys remember, it was precisely in Catalonia where it was like the last standing army against Franco during the Civil War. And there's a lot of people that they don't even need to know much about philosophy. They just have in their blood this libertarian vein, right? A lot of them, they are like more like communist, anarcho-communists, and so somehow, but definitely they have like a libertarian vein. So I think it was a combination of those things. I also was looking for having an online presence, and not just having like a 9 to 5 regular job, because I realized the importance of the internet and I was just trying to find a job online. So all of those things led me at some point in 2014 to Bitcoin. And I just start hearing from the anarchists online, oh, there's this thing called Bitcoin and blah, blah, blah. And I start learning about that. And it was probably in 2015 when it really clicked, and I said to myself, okay, this is important. This is an interesting thing that is happening, and I want to start stacking sats as much as possible. And I remember that I didn't have my first uh, like important investment until late 15 or 16. But by 2016, I was like all in on Bitcoin. Like I sold my shares in my own company. I sold my car, and I bought Bitcoin by then. And eventually, the next year, I moved back to Mexico. I joined the community here in Mexico, which was relatively small. Like they were like very early adopters in Mexico, like everywhere else. But the community was not that big in 2016, 17. And by the time that I moved full time back to Mexico, I was in a relatively early phase of the adoption of the community. So I just started helping in doing meetups, in doing workshops, and that's how I start gaining a little bit of recognition in the Latin American and Mexican Bitcoin community. And then the rest is history. Like, well, another important part of my story was in 2016 when I started trading rare pepes in the Bitcoin blockchain through Counterparty. And that's like another huge rabbit hole that led me to Bitcoin art, and the rest is history. So that's basically my short story long.
Well, an epic story, mate. And I think I think like a lot of well, you got in really quite early compared to a lot of Bitcoin artists, and Bitcoiners in general, but Bitcoin artists in general. And it's incredible that I guess some people hear about and get into Bitcoin because and it's normal as human beings. It's kind of the number go up thing. Oh, buy some Bitcoin, hold it, the price goes up. It's very interesting how you were obviously kind of uh, against the state, and on top of that, then you actually had a real use case kind of for transporting your wealth, time across the world using Bitcoin as well, and quite visionary, to be honest with you, to actually understand it as such a young time in Bitcoin's life, really.
Yes, definitely. Like, of course, like compared to a lot of very early adopters that we all know, even in the Bitcoin space, I remember um, compared to Crypto Graffiti, that I met him in real life very at some point in 2017. He was visiting Mexico, and we were together in a Telegram group, and then we met in real life, and he was the one that invited me for the first time to the Bitcoin Magazine event, which was like very important. So I attended the 2019 Bitcoin conference in San Francisco because I was invited by Crypto Graffiti, and that was also like a great experience because he's like the real OG in Bitcoin art, I will say, and it's funny to see how those very early adopters were just a very small group of people, and we just all know, like we all knew each other back then, right? I mean, it's still relatively small, the Bitcoin art scene, the just Bitcoin art scene, but there, I mean, it's growing every day. And nowadays there are international events and all. And back then it was still very, like, way smaller. So yeah, I mean, I still consider myself an early adopter, definitely.
What was that first? I say first Bitcoin. I suppose one of the first Bitcoin art meetups, because they couldn't have been like that regular, and obviously very international. What was it like? Give us a flavour and how it kind of differs from what we kind of just experienced in Nashville, or what paint the scene for us, Gus.
Well, in the specific case of meeting with Crypto Graffiti, and also he was coming with Margaret, coin artists, that she moved more into the gaming space and more into Ethereum. But yeah, back then, so we met through a group that was a Telegram group that was called um, Art Project Decentralized. I don't know how many of you guys are in that group. It was like the number, probably the big, at some point, it was the biggest Telegram group for Bitcoin and crypto artists in general, because that group was created by Jessica Angel. She's a Colombian girl that lives in New York. She's not been that active recently because she had a baby. She's been like working more in her personal life, but she's like a super talented artist, and she's like super hardworking. And we all met in New York at the beginning of 2018. So on January 2018, that was the first uh, Rare AF festival. It's famous because they auctioned the first. It was the first in real life auction of a rare pepe. So a lot of us, including like Theo Woodman and Joe Looney and Jessica Angel, we were already hanging out in the Telegram groups since 2016 at least, but we haven't met in real life. And it was at the beginning of 2018 when they made this first in real life festival in New York, and most of the people went there. I missed that festival because I learned like too late and I didn't have the chance to buy a ticket. But then 2 months later, there was, or 2 months or something like that, a few time later, there was a tech week in New York that had a blockchain a specific event. So we all gather, and then as soon as I learned about that, I definitely bought a ticket to spend the weekend in New York for the tech week, and that's where I met in real life a lot of people that we all know. I met Skrilla, I met Theo Woodman, I met Jessica, which Jessica was like at that point, Jessica was the number one what's the name, is like a community creator. She was the admin of the biggest group that was called Art Project Decentralized, and a lot of artists we just met there in that Telegram group, which is still going. It's just that there are so many groups nowadays that we get lost. But from those early days, I met online with Theo, with Crypto Graffiti, with Skrilla, and then in 2018 we met in real life and start like having a friendship relationship in a different level, because of course like real life is a different experience, right? So I believe that a lot of us, even though we know each other from Twitter or from Telegram, is very different if we have seen each other in real life, because we know how we are, how we move, like the whole life experience is more rich. So 2018 was very important because of that, because that was the year where we, the artist community, met in real life. Um, yeah. So I will say that's, for me, was one of the most important years.
That's fascinating to know about that, like the history around that time, and all those names that you've just mentioned there, like a lot of the OGs of the space there and gathering, and you could almost see this Bitcoin art movement gradually gathering momentum. Did you did at this point in time in 2018? And I appreciate the Bitcoin art movement's got a lot, still got a long way to go, and we're still relatively early. Did you at that point think, hang on a minute, we're onto something here? This is something that I'm drawn to, and I want to do more of, or it's really important that it's kind of documented our emotions in art. What were your kind of thoughts at that time?
Honestly, for me, it was from the very like the aha moment for me regarding art and Bitcoin. It was in 2016, because the first time I traded a rare pepe, for me, I mean, I immediately realized that we were witnessing something important. I always say this. Just like picture yourself making a design or a drawing or a piece of digital art and putting it online, and then the next day you have a little bit more Bitcoin in your wallet, like from an anonymous collector, from that could be in any corner of the world. That for me was definitely like an eye-opening. I so so to give you like a sense of how uh, how much of an impact this had on me, I didn't even understand much how the tokenization worked back then. And another thing to point out is that back then, uh, the conversation and the community was not as polarized as it is right now. So nowadays, even especially in the Bitcoin community, there are some artists and some creators that are like very much against any kind of tokens or any kind of uh, interaction with a different blockchain that is not Bitcoin, or selling or trading NFTs. So back then, that was not a thing. So this polarization came about a little later, but back then, especially in 2016, that we haven't even had the block size wars, which led to a lot of this polarization. I mean, using Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin was something super normal. Everyone was doing this, and in 2016, when we start doing rare pepes, doing a token and selling it as the art was an experimental exercise. I didn't even had that clear what was going on, right? I just realized that you can make these designs and put it online, and there was market demand for this exercise, for this crafting of digital goods. And of course, I started learning as soon as possible. And by 2017, I was like way more savvy on what was going on from the technical perspective. But the community was not as polarized as it is now, right now. And that was my aha moment in 2016 when I realized that from that point on, every creative people was going to be able to just monetize their work by doing what we nowadays call NFTs or tokens or whatever, right? So that was very important for me. Like I have always been an artist in the sense that I make illustrations and I like music and even I like dancing, but I never actually monetize my work that much, like except for a few paintings and a few drawings that I used to make shows, like small shows, especially in my spare time. I used to make like a small show, a little exhibition on a bar, on a cafe with friends. And yeah, definitely I knew that there was a market for the things that I do because I could recognize like people coming to me and saying, "Okay, I want to buy this art from you. I want to." And living in very touristic places in Barcelona, I realized that there was definitely like people with money willing to pay me good money for my art. But this was always in my spare time. So I was working as an engineer and I was like mainly focused on my career. But in 2016, I realized that I could access a, a global market without the need of a gallery or a market like a private a market to do so. And that for me was because I was already there, like trying to sell my art. I realized that this was super important. So that was a game changer for me. And from there on, just like the idea was more and more consolidated for interacting with the other artists, for by interacting with Theo, with Skrilla, with Crypto Graffiti, with all those guys. We realized that yeah, I mean, this is a thing. We can sell our stuff online through monetization with or without tokens, and we can get paid in Bitcoin. And since Bitcoin is a better money, well, I mean, it's a win-win, right? Why don't we just focus our efforts in selling more of this kind of art to this specific market that is just going to grow? And that premise haven't changed. I mean, it has just gained more adoption ever since. A funny fact is that I believe most of us thought that the mainstream understanding of this was going to take more, but then with the pandemic it just exploded. And from like in a few months everyone was looking into NFTs and trying to get into the crypto ecosystem, that so much so that actually it created a big bubble that we are still resenting, in my opinion. Like the NFT space grew so fast, and the crypto brand and the crypto bros grew so fast that we are still probably seeing a correction of that bubble and that hype of 2021 probably. So it's not that the fundamentals are wrong, it's just that they attracted a lot of bad actors and a lot of bullshit, and then we are seeing the consequences of that. But it's funny that no one expected that it was going to grow so fast, and it just happened. And I think that's also a property of Bitcoin. It's like uh, how does the saying goes, uh, like first it's slow and then suddenly, or suddenly and then, so it goes something like that. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I want to say about all this you're talking, and I'm thinking when I first met you, and it was in Miami 2022, and I was so new to like the space or everything. I had just done some art and didn't even like got in very deep into what other people were doing or stuff like that. I didn't even knew much people back then. And I remember when I got there to the conference and I started to see what so many people were doing and so many amazing art, and I felt like so tiny. I felt like, oh, where am I? Like I feel like I'm starting. I don't know if I have a place here. These people have been here so long, and I felt like this feeling of being late. And I remember like when I met you and you were so friendly, so welcoming, and I think it really inspired me and shaped the way I want to build my art. And the way I see, for example, competition in the art ecosystem, in the Bitcoiner art ecosystem, it's like I want to grow, I want to do better. I compete in a way against myself, but I don't see this what we see in fiat art, that it's like pushing someone down. It's the opposite. It's like, if you do great, I'm happy for you, and I get inspired by your work, and I try to come up with my own things, my own ideas. And yeah, I'm very grateful for, and I see that attitude. And then we met again 2 years late, no, I don't, 1 year later or something like that, in Amsterdam, and it was like seeing a friend from all, like you, yeah, what you said, like years happen very weird in Bitcoin, and it's like um, these people understand what's important. It's like the ethos is so important, and then you see each other. It's like not seeing a friend in a very, like an old friend in a very long time. Um, so yeah, you really helped me like continue to because yeah, as I felt so tiny, I was like, should I be doing this? And it made sense to me. It was like, no, yeah, there is much to say, and you meet these people that have been here for so long, and they're so humble. And yeah, I really wanted to say, like, it really inspired me. And also it's super fun for me to meet with you because you know so much, you remember so many things. And since I'm not very good with the NFTs and the pepes, and I don't really understand, and it's hard for me to put it like in my head. You have explained it with me with so much patience, and with um, not like trying to convince me, or like trying to, or get into a fight, this is right, this is wrong, but the opposite. It's like, yeah, you have your ideas, I have my ideas, this comes from this, this is what we're doing. And it really helped me to open my mind to different things. And I think that's also made me not only like better in my art, but also like a better person. Like, yeah, to be open to different ideas, and to really believe in free speech, which is like, I don't have to believe the same as you, but you have the right to say it. It's been incredibly inspiring for me.
Thank you. It means a lot to me to hear this. Thank you very much. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I believe that this community we are part of, the Bitcoin art community, is super friendly, and probably that's because I know this is becoming kind of a cliche, but it's 100% true. Like, we have a long time preference, different from the fiat world, the normie art, or all the altcoin shitcoinery, which, like, sometimes I realize that people are a little confused in where I stand uh, regarding other altcoins and NFTs and all of that, because I understand why there is this prejudice for NFTs. Like, I understand that in the past couple of years, it had been like that brand had just been flooded with scams. So I understand when people have this prejudice for this trend, but at the same time, like the core idea of making a token and trading, I mean, that's not going to go away, and that's not necessarily a scam, as long as you are very clear and you are not betraying your collectors. Like you have to be honest. Like you're saying, look, guys, I'm doing this, and this is what I'm offering, and you make out of it whatever you want. Like I'm not lying to anyone. And that's where people get confused, because there have been so many scams and so many um, terrible implementations of these ideas, especially on Ethereum and other protocols, that it's easy to get into this slippery slope and believe that everything is just a scam. But I have understanding at the same time, I have never been a fan of just banning those ideas or just being absolutely toxic and bitching about everyone doing this, because this is super important. And I believe that our Bitcoin art community is very welcoming, like very warm with each other. We are not trying to compete with each other that much. If you realize that we kind of all have long-term preference. I know that our art is going to get appreciated in the long run, because we are pretty early and we are the ones that are putting out in the world these ideas that are going to be super impactful. Like I just get more and more certain by the day the power of these ideas. I just last Saturday, 2 days ago, I gave a small workshop in a Mexican university, which is like a with a very high prestige university. It's called ITAM, and I was invited because I still do workshops and lectures on technology, and I was invited to talk about Bitcoin, and of course I have like 2 hours of just talking in Spanish. That I know that my English is not that bad, is good enough, but it's not that good, honestly. Like it's not that perfect. In Spanish, I'm way more fluent, and I can debate and I can explain ideas better. And I was like having this great conversation, and I love to do that because I realize how you blow like you just blow their brains of the students. And these are not just like young kids, this is adults, like this is people that are taking a specialized workshop on technology, and they are paying good money to this university because it's expensive. And they have technical backgrounds, some of them come from finance. And then when you talk to them about just libertarian ideas of that are common sense, but for the average guy out there, they just have no access to these ideas. Like they have never heard someone talk about how crazy is the world that we live in, how much of a scam the banking system is, and how much we just deserve to live in a we need we definitely can and should operate with better technology, better banking, and better finance technology. And when you explain it to them like that, it just makes perfect sense, and that just reinforces our convictions that we are uh, talking about something that haven't permeated to the masses. And doing this through art, I think is just like the best job you can have, because you're not just like talking to an audience, you are exercising your creativity, you are creating memes, which I believe is one of the most important forms of communication. You are crafting memes for the masses. So one of the things that I believe that I wish that is going to be like my main contribution to humanity is that maybe a small piece of my art is going to be out there in some meme in 20, 30, 100 years, and that's what I want. Like I don't really, I'm not looking for fame and fortune outside of ourselves, like you guys that are my community. But it's definitely to put out there these ideas that we are certain that are going to be positive for humanity, and it's just that the general public, they don't have access to these ideas because it's not, I mean, they are like suppressed in a way, right? I mean, we don't need to be conspiratorial. It's just common sense. Like everything that threatens the status quo is not going to be promoted. And of course, if you believe that no one has the right to impose on you something forcefully, in a forceful way, uh, this whole idea of authority just doesn't make sense, and people understand it immediately. You just need to put it out there. So, yeah, I mean, going back to your point, Flo, I think the fact that we both have like a relatively similar reality coming from Latin America and speaking in Spanish and having fun during these conferences has been something super important for me too. And I'm really thankful for your words, for your kind words. Thank you.
Hey, yeah, and I wanted to
Hey,
just say,
what's up?
everyone, you can, one second, you can ask questions now. It's the mic is open, and go ahead, Bitcoin 8.
Yes, hello, GM everyone. How's it going?
Hey,
Yes,
good.
nice to meet you, everyone. Yes, indeed, why art is freedom, because everything started with art, and the blockchain today is helping, art against any censorship. Because the first things you do basically when you like to share the society, the first thing you share art. But now, thanks to Bitcoin, as you say, use DJ, thanks to Bitcoin and its blockchain, now we can, go ahead of this and against of this censorship, basically. And I don't know, folks, if you heard about Bitcoin stamps. So Bitcoin stamps, it's a protocol which is helping artists and collectors to create and store Bitcoin, to store art through, and inside the Bitcoin blockchain. So the thing is, when you store and create your art inside the Bitcoin blockchain, first, it can't be censored by anyone. Second, is stored forever on the blockchain of inside the most immutable blockchain, which is Bitcoin. And the third thing is that it's permanent. So you are creating like eternal art thanks to the Bitcoin blockchain. So I don't know if you folks you heard about stamps like a stamps, STAMPS. But I discovered this protocol 1 year ago, and is very, 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 very great. There is great artists right now. Myself, I'm a collector, mostly a collector of art. But folks, if you want permanent and eternal
Big name. Sorry to interrupt.
art, it's true
Do you have
stamps.
do you have a question for Gus at all on the show? Aware of stamps and it's a protocol, but do you have a question for our guest, Gus?
Yes, indeed. So now regarding the art of freedom, can you tell me, what kind of blockchain, how artists see, art through and store and create art through blockchain? How could they be free with the tech, and what kind of tech they are using and tools to helping them to get free thanks to their art?
Yeah, I can. So a lot of two things there regarding the stamps are definitely an interesting protocol because they are inspired by ordinals, which at the same time are inspired by Ethereum's NFTs that at the same time were inspired by counterparty tokens, right? So the history of these digital objects is super interesting. I have lectures on this. Um, in a way, for many years, I will say 2021, 2022, a couple of years at least, I had a lot of demand for explaining people what was the history of digital collectibles and what was the state of the art. And stamps is one of these very recent evolutions of these artifacts. And they're interesting because, as we mentioned, these allow creators to monetize their work. At the same time, they are very controversial because uh, stamps, they are even more, how to say, problematic to the operation of the Bitcoin blockchain as it's meant to be, right? We all know this debate. So I don't demonize them. I just always try to talk about these protocols in an open way. I have learned to not try to go with people and just try to sell them the bullish case for digital collectibles, because I rather give like a balance take on what are the pros and the cons. I find it interesting, fascinating. I have done stamps. I'm not very active doing them at the moment, but yeah, I mean, it's something that I think is interesting to understand and to know. And regarding the question of how we find this empowering, well, I just think it comes from what I already mentioned. Is we creators, is not just that you can charge or you can sell your art or whatever you do for a living with Bitcoin, which is like a very already it's a very effective way of earning an income. But creating digital artifacts is super important. For instance, let me give you guys an example. Here in Nashville, that we all of us were there hanging out. The collector that bought my art, he asked if I could make for him a timestamp, an ordinal or something of the sort, just to increase the value or to make a statement of the transaction that we made. And I think that's a very interesting use case. Like if we have an economic relationship, we might like we don't want to interact with the government that as like we want to interact with the government as little as possible for all the reasons that we know. Why, instead of signing a contract or giving a physical certificate, we don't just give each other a digital artifact that is stored on the Bitcoin blockchain? So I find a lot of these use cases very valid. I believe that time will tell if they are viable, if they make sense, and if there's a market for a lot of these use cases, which I believe that some of them are nonsense. But we will see, like just the market will decide probably. In this particular regard, I definitely believe that the market will find a way to tell us if it makes sense or if it doesn't.
Thank you for your question there, Bitcoin Ape. Really appreciate that. And as this is the Art of Freedom, anyone is welcome to ask questions to us or our guests. So if you want to ask Gus a question, we've got 10 more minutes. So just respond by once you become a speaker down the bottom and we'll get you up. Gus, you've been on your travels quite recently, and I've seen you headed over to Pepe Fest with some other people in this room at the moment. How was that? What was that experience like?
Well, yeah, I was very lucky to be invited to that fest because so in my experience, I think it's been the most well-made digital art festival. Like it was, I mean, in some regards, it was limited because most of the art on the museum is from people which is the owner and creator of this place, this art studio he calls it, but it's more like a gigafactory. And the guy made this fest, this Pepe Fest, I believe, like in a way to bring together the Pepe community and kind of like win them over, and so he can like just start doing his own NFTs and Pepes without getting shit from Twitter. So, but the guy actually like made a really cool event. It's been definitely the biggest Pepe Fest so far. So for the ones that don't know, there have been Pepe events since 2018, in real life events. And last year there was like a really cool one in Paris with two galleries, a digital gallery and a physical gallery, and that event was really cool. But this one has just like all the money. Like I don't know how much hundreds of thousands of dollars this guy put on the event, but it was like a massive event, like for us the speakers. We had like a VIP pass, which we are basically all the counterparty Bitcoin community. We had a VIP pass, and we have food and drinks, and we had like a dinner the day before and a brunch the day after. And I mean, for me, it was a great experience. The whole community came together, and the most important thing that I'm taking from there, on top of the party and the fun, is that this guy is like building the standard of how a digital art museum should look like. And he clearly has all the resources. He has all kinds of different types of screens and displays, LED screens, just regular screens, projectors, you name it. Like he's got everything. So he's kind of building how a digital art museum and gallery should look like. And that's a very it was a very good experience, because kind of like I see where this is going for the digital art scene, not just in Bitcoin, but in general. Anyone that is an artist, a creator, and is working with digital media should be paying attention to this displays and this way of presenting your art, because as we all know, it's not just the idea, it's just not the crafting, but it's also the way you display it, the way you present it, what actually creates an impact on the public. So, focusing on how to present it properly in a gallery or a museum is very important. And this guy apparently is in the at the very front of innovation right now. So it was a great experience. I was in an art panel with Hansel here, and with Pepe Langelo, and Eleonora Brizzi was curating the panels. So I had a great time, honestly.
That's great, mate. It looked, I was so jealous, and you could see even Citra here in the chat as well, just with the sad face emojis, because
Yeah.
we were quite, yeah, I was looking at it, I was going, oh man, that would have been awesome. So many frogs, like a wall to wall of frogs, mate. So it looked pretty incredible. But I'm so glad. First of all, I'm glad you guys had a great time, but also what was even better was you guys' contribution to the Pepe community, and therefore the Bitcoin art community has been recognized as well. And you guys getting out on panels, talking about your experiences, promoting not just yourselves but Bitcoin art as well. So that was really awesome. It was really cool, and I was really proud of you guys just to get out there and yeah. Are those kind of those speeches, are they available on YouTube just to watch, just for my purely selfishly, just so I could go listen back?
No, unfortunately, I think they were not recorded, or if they were, it's just they're just gonna be in the private computer of people. Because I personally asked him if those talks were available, and he said, honestly, like we are not even looking into editing. So probably after the event, the guy just like move to the next thing. So, to my knowledge, they are not going to be available, unfortunately.
That's really sad. That would have been great. We've actually got to 26 minutes past 8, mate. And we haven't even talked once about your art in particular, so which is a first for the art of freedom. We've managed to get through a whole hour without talking about the artist's art. But that's not to say the show has not worked. In fact, if anything, it's been absolutely inspiring and incredible to hear someone orate so passionately about Bitcoin art uh, and the future of Bitcoin art as well. And for me, kind of like I've had goosebumps while you were talking, mate. And I think it's you're such a great voice in the community, and you speak so well. We have only got 3 minutes left, mate. So I'd just like to. I guess we're going to get you back on, Gus. We're going to have to get you back on. Flo, we can't let him go like this. But I just want to know what's happening in Gus Grillasca land at the moment. What are you doing in the future? Where are you looking to go with your art, or where can people listen to some of your talks, etc.?
Yeah. Well, I think, look, man. I think my art just talks about what we've been talking here, what we've been discussing. Is just that. So, I think that, we don't even need to go into the specifics. Is I'm just trying to put out there in the world these ideas that we've been discussing, and the pepes and the digital collectibles. They are a big part of what I do, because, like, both the Pepe meme it's really hard to explain how powerful the frog meme, this green meme is. It just like sucks all the energy of the room every time. So, and I don't mind. Like, of course, I do a lot of other things beside Pepe's, but I don't mind talking about this for hours. Also, I want to say that even though I haven't been presenting much art this year, for instance, in Nashville, I was very close to not going because I'm doing like a lot of things here in my personal life in Mexico, that I was this close to not going. Fortunately, our friend Ryer called me and said, "What the fuck, man? Like, get your shit together. You need to come." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, man, you're right. Yes, boss." So I had an art in process that it was already almost finished. So I sent it, and I went, and that was like the best decision. But I think this year in particular, I'm going to be working more in bringing down some ideas that I have. I have a lot of work in process, and I think next year I'm going to focus more on how to prepare a bigger shows. So probably, like, almost certainly we're going to meet each other in Las Vegas. I think it's going to be in May, and I'm planning to bring a nicer show with stuff that I'm working, or with some art that I am prepared already. And as I said, like, is just how to portray better all of these ideas, or of freedom, of better technology. I really believe in the cypherpunk ethos, that technology can empower the individual through better communication systems, through privacy, through sovereign money, and all of these ideas that we kind of take for granted, but the general public have no freaking idea. They have never heard about this. So I just like to display those ideas through my art, through my digital art, through my drawings, through my paintings, through my even sculptures. My brother, one of my brothers, just got a 3D printer, and we've been playing with that a little bit too. I don't know if you guys saw the Pepe bullet in Nashville. So that was like a kind of like a last minute idea, and I think it was hilarious. So I think I'm going to be playing with that technology more. So I'm just really excited to use different media to keep uh, spreading the good gospel of freedom out there.
Wow, that's a fantastic note to end on, mate. And yeah, 3D printing, love it. And if yeah, it's such a great technology for self sovereignty, etc. I don't think there's anything we need to add there, Gus. I think that was pretty incredible representation of our craft. I mean, our the community, the Bitcoin art community. I just want to take the time just to say thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you taking the time coming on the show today. I know there's always a risk that you might drop out of spaces with everything, but we've stayed a whole hour and we hear no technical faults, etc. So I just want to say thank you so much. Flo, is there anything else you would like to ask our friend?
Uh, yeah, no, ask about just to thank again. And also that I think we have to have Gus again, as you said. I would love to go deeper into the art. I know you play a lot with the popular culture and with the memes and all of that, but you also have a lot of different pieces that I find super interesting. I mean, those with the memes too, because of what we have been talking today. But yeah, you have a complex kind of art, and I also find that very inspiring when I see people working different styles, different ideas, different materials. It's something I also find in Rebel's art. I love it, and it inspires me to try different materials. So I would love to have you again if you can, and we can go deeper into the art and yeah, to talk more about it.
Yeah, of course, guys, anytime. And honestly, thank you very much for doing these spaces. It's definitely you're filling a void that was there in our community because it's super hard to just keep doing this kind of of events to bring the community together. So I'm really, really thankful. You know that you're doing a great job, and I hope that everyone there that is listening had a good time. I think doing these things are very important, and I will always be down for doing more. So just count me in.
Nice. And also, before you go, where can people find you? Where can people see your art? Whatever you want to share with everyone.
Yeah, I mean, here on X, every day, like I just check my account, my DMs, everything. You can check my art also in Scarcity. That is probably the platform that we are all together in. I have my rare pepes. You can find them in Pepe WTF. Um, and I also have an Instagram account. Like you can find me anywhere we as Gus Grillasca. So just like you can find me on Instagram, you can find me here on X, you can find me on Scarcity on the Pepes community. So my DMs are always open. Any question that you have, or if you want a collab, let me know and we'll see about that. I've been doing a lot of collabs recently, actually. So one of the reasons that I haven't published that much this year is because I've been doing like a lot of collabs that doesn't like look that takes a lot of my time. But so last month we released an Icarus card, and this month we have another one with a whale that is super cool. Check it out. I'm gonna retweet one of those posts. And next month I'm doing a different design. So there are gonna be three different designs of Icarus cards, which are a plastic card hardware, Bitcoin hardware wallets. They are super cool. They look amazing in real life. So check those out. I'm working for a book, but I don't know if I can talk about this uh, right now. So just like stay tuned, and you will see it in my social media. And well, I mean different stuff. So I'm still creating. I'm still doing what I do, and hopefully next year we'll see each other again in real life, and I will be very excited.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Gus Grillasca, the legend himself. We didn't even get to the Freddie Mercury part as well, but we're going to save that for the next one. Don't you worry, Gus. We will we'll get to that. But just to finally say thank you so much, everyone, for joining us once again on Monday, wherever you are around the world. We will definitely be back next week, and we have Ariel Birdie who's coming on the show as well to talk about her story, her art. It was lovely to meet her in Nashville, and she's in the room right now as well. So, hi, Ariel. Looking forward to talking to you next week on the show, The Art of Freedom, on episode 22. Until then, go out there and create something awesome. Hope you all have a good week.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Go have an amazing creative week.